Here's what's happening in Iran. Israel launched a preemptive attack.
Yeah, no they didn't, because that's not really a real thing, is it? If you launch an attack against somebody who hasn't actually done anything to you, that's called an unprovoked assault. So the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu launched an unprovoked assault against Iran and justified it with an unsubstantiated claim that Iran were, one, on the verge of developing nuclear weapons, and two, intending to use those nuclear weapons against Israel. Now, the problem is, this is the exact same unsubstantiated claim that Benny Boy here has been using to justify all manner of violence and atrocities for the last several decades.
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon?
The answer is categorically yes. Iraq and Iran.
In 1992, he claimed Iran were merely 3 years away from developing nuclear weapons and were a threat that must be dealt with immediately. 3 years later, in 1995, he claimed Iran were 5 to 7 years away from developing nuclear weapons and were a threat that must be dealt with immediately. 7 years later, in 2002, he claimed Iran were only 1 or 2 years away from developing nuclear weapons and were a threat that must be dealt with immediately. Now, he made almost exactly the same claim about Saddam Hussein in Iraq. You remember that? You remember Iraq? You remember WMDs and they hate us for our freedom? You remember the obvious lies about non-existent weapons of mass destruction that it later turned out were clearly deliberately fabricated? The lie that they were on the verge of nuclear weapons, that they were an imminent threat that had to be dealt with immediately? A lie that cost the lives of thousands of American soldiers and hundreds of thousands of civilian Iraqis. It's time for us to stop indulging the lies of the obvious lying liars. And I'm not saying that you're supposed to be pro-Iran. There are plenty of valid criticisms to be launched at the Iranian government. You just need to be pro yourself, anti-funneling a bunch of taxpayer money into the military-industrial complex that increases the debt and does nothing to serve the people, anti-sending young boys and girls halfway across the world to die on foreign soil for a bunch of lies and empty rhetoric. This man wants your brothers and sisters, your children, your parents to go die and kill in Iran because it serves his interest. This man and the influences and interests that he represents want to provoke war. It is time for the people of the Western world to be very abundantly clear that this man and the influences and the interests that he represents, that he speaks for, that he acts on behalf of, are no longer welcome in our political conversation.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. There is a new age, something new is happening.
And that is speculation on your part, or you have some evidence to that effect?